Hey everyone, welcome back to the Easy English Room podcast. I'm Emma, and as always, I'm here with my amazing co host, Henry.
Hey guys, great to have you with us again. So, today's episode is a big one. Honestly, it's something that affects all of us in one way or another. We're diving into social media, and, well, the title kind of says it all: How Social Media Slowly Destroys Your Life.
Yeah, and in today's conversation, we're going to explore why social media is so addictive and also how it might be influencing us in ways we don't even notice at first.
Right, and not just that, we'll also get into everything from why we just can't seem to stop scrolling to how social media can actually affect our confidence, our self image, and even our mental health over time.
Exactly. So if you've ever caught yourself thinking, why am I still on my phone? Or maybe you felt a bit low after scrolling through Instagram for too long, then yeah, this episode is definitely for you. Well, Henry, let's be honest for a second. Have you ever picked up your phone just to check one tiny thing, and then suddenly it's been like an hour, and you're watching some completely random video, like, I don't know, how to make pottery or something?
Oh, 100%, all the time. I'll open my phone thinking, okay, just one quick check, and next thing I know, I'm watching videos of baby goats jumping around or people baking cakes in slow motion. It's honestly crazy. Like, where does the time even go? Social media has this strange power to just pull you in and make you forget everything else.
I know, right? It's exactly the same for me. I can't even count how many times I've said, I'll just be a minute, and then somehow I end up watching videos of people organizing their closets. And the funny thing is, my closet looks nothing like that, not even close, but still, I keep watching. I mean, there's something about it that just keeps you hooked. It's honestly addictive.
Yeah, it really is. And here's the interesting part. There's actually science behind all of this. It's not just random. These apps are designed in a way that keeps us coming back again and again. Basically, it all comes down to those small bursts of dopamine we get whenever we see something we like or when we receive a notification.
Exactly. And just in case someone's not familiar with that word, dopamine is like a feel good chemical in our brain. It's what gives us that sense of pleasure or excitement. So, for example, it's the same chemical that's released when we eat chocolate, win a game, or laugh at something really funny. So, every time your phone lights up with a notification, your brain goes, "Oh, that feels nice. Let's do that again."
Yeah, that's it. And the more often we get that feeling, the more we start to want it. In a way, it's kind of like playing a video game. Every like, every comment, it's like a tiny reward. And before we even realize it, we're completely hooked on that cycle, which is pretty wild when you think about it.
Exactly. Because technically, we're not playing a game or eating anything. We're just scrolling. But our brains don't really see the difference. They just recognize that feeling and they want more of it.
Yeah, and that's exactly why it becomes so difficult to put our phones down. We get stuck in this loop of checking, refreshing, scrolling, just chasing those little rewards. Even when we know we should stop, we just keep going.
Mm-hmm. And actually, before we go any further into this topic, just a quick reminder, we've prepared a free PDF for this episode. It includes all the key ideas, useful expressions, and important vocabulary we're using today. So if you want to follow along more easily or review everything later, just check the description for the download link.
Yeah, definitely. It's really helpful, especially if you like taking notes or if you want to go back and revise what we talk about. All right, so let's continue. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the main question. Why is social media so addictive? We already mentioned dopamine, but honestly, there's more going on. Another big factor is instant gratification, the idea of getting something immediately without much effort.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. You post a photo, and within seconds, you start getting likes or comments. And let's be real, that instant reaction feels good. You don't have to wait. You don't have to work too hard. It's just post something, get attention, feel good. It sounds simple, right? But at the same time, it can be a bit risky.
Yeah, that's the problem, because over time, our brains start to expect those quick rewards. It's kind of like eating junk food. It tastes great in the moment, but it's not really good for you in the long run. And slowly, we begin to depend on social media for those quick bursts of happiness.
Mm-hmm. And what's even more concerning is that it makes other parts of life feel slower or even boring. Like standing in a queue or reading a book doesn't give you that instant reward. So your brain starts thinking, this isn't very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. It actually changes the way we experience everyday activities. We begin to feel like if something isn't fast or immediately rewarding, then it's not worth our time. And honestly, that can really affect our patience and our ability to stay focused.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of focus, social media can really damage our attention span. Have you noticed how content keeps getting shorter and shorter? First, we had long videos on platforms like YouTube, then shorter ones on Instagram, and now TikTok gives us super quick videos, sometimes just a few seconds long, and they repeat again and again.
Yeah, and our brains start adapting to that speed. We go from one clip to another, constantly switching, constantly looking for something new. And then suddenly, sitting through a 30-minute documentary feels incredibly long, almost like a challenge.
So true. I've actually tried reading a book recently, and my brain was like, come on, where's the excitement? Where's the action? It's almost like we're training ourselves to expect nonstop entertainment all the time.
Yeah, and that's not great for things like studying, working, or even just relaxing quietly. Our attention spans get shorter, and it becomes harder to concentrate on one thing for a longer period. It's almost as if social media has rewired our brains to be less patient and more restless.
Yeah, exactly. And when we lose that ability to focus, it doesn't just stay in one area. It starts affecting everything. Our productivity drops, learning becomes harder, and even our relationships can suffer. I mean, think about it. Real conversations can suddenly feel slow or even a bit boring simply because we've gotten so used to that fast, constant stimulation from our phones. It's like our brain expects everything to move at that same quick pace.
That's a really good point. And actually, speaking of how social media affects us, let's move on to something else, the comparison trap. Because honestly, social media is full of these perfect-looking photos. Amazing holidays, fancy meals, smiling families. Everything just looks ideal. And even though we know it's not the full picture, it's still hard not to compare ourselves.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's like you see someone posting a beautiful beach photo, clear blue waters, sunshine, everything looks perfect, and suddenly your own life feels a bit, I don't know, dull in comparison. And then those thoughts start creeping in. Why am I not doing that? Or why don't I have that kind of life?
Exactly. And the thing is, it gets even trickier because people usually only share the best moments. We don't see the difficult times, the boring days, or the challenges they're dealing with behind the scenes. So in a way, we're only seeing a very small, polished version of reality.
Right. So what happens is we end up comparing our entire life with all its ups and downs to someone else's highlight reel. It's a bit like watching a movie trailer. You only see the exciting scenes, the best moments, but none of the effort, stress, or hard work that goes into it. And naturally, when we compare like that, it's easy to feel like we're falling behind somehow.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And over time, those comparisons can lead to feelings like jealousy or sadness, and in some cases, even depression. We start believing that everyone else is doing better than us, when in reality, we're just seeing the surface of their lives, not the full story.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, there's also the impact on our relationships. Have you ever noticed people sitting together, maybe in a cafe or at dinner, but everyone's just looking down at their phones? It's like they're physically together, but mentally they're somewhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? In a way, it's almost funny, but at the same time, it's a bit sad. We spend so much time checking in on people who aren't even there that we end up ignoring the people right in front of us.
Exactly. And interestingly, studies have actually shown that constantly being on our phones can make us feel more isolated. Even though we're connected to hundreds of people online, we sometimes forget to build deeper, real-life connections that actually matter.
Yeah, that's true. And if that continues over time, it can lead to a real sense of loneliness, even when we're surrounded by others. It's almost as if social media gives us the illusion of connection, but it doesn't replace genuine face-to-face interaction.
Mm-hmm. And finally, let's talk about something really important, the impact on mental health. Spending long hours on social media has been linked to things like anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem, which is quite serious when you think about it.
Yeah, and it becomes even more challenging when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others at the same time. That combination can really affect how we see ourselves.
Exactly. When we start looking to social media for validation, it can really damage our sense of self-worth. We begin to feel like if we don't get enough likes or comments, then maybe we're not good enough, which isn't true, but it can feel that way.
Right. It's almost like our value becomes tied to numbers, likes, views, followers, instead of who we really are as people. And that's a dangerous way to think.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly easy to fall into that pattern. One day, you post something and it gets a lot of attention. You feel great, confident, happy. Then the next day, you post again and the response isn't the same. And suddenly, you start doubting yourself, wondering what changed.
Exactly. And over time, this kind of cycle can lead to bigger emotional issues, like anxiety or even depression. Because in a way, we're depending on something external, something we can't fully control just to feel good about ourselves. And yeah, that can become quite unhealthy.
Well, that was quite a deep discussion, wasn't it? We've covered a lot, and honestly, it gives us plenty to think about.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you listening who want to really understand the vocabulary we've used today, don't worry, we've got something for you.
That's right. It's time for our vocabulary breakdown with Laura. She's going to go through some of the key words and phrases from this episode, helping you understand them better and, more importantly, use them in real situations. All right, Laura, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Laura here. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Emma and Henry. Now, let's take a moment to go over some of the key vocabulary from today's episode, and more importantly, connect these words directly to what they were talking about. I'll explain each one clearly and give you simple examples so you can start using them naturally in your own English. All right, let's get started. First up, we have addiction. So, addiction means a strong and sometimes harmful need to keep doing something again and again, even when we know we should probably stop. In today's episode, Emma and Henry were talking about how social media can feel addictive. You know, that feeling of not being able to put your phone down. For example, you could say, scrolling on social media late at night can turn into an addiction if we're not careful. Next, let's look at instant gratification. This phrase describes the desire to feel pleasure or satisfaction immediately, without waiting. Remember when they mentioned posting a photo and getting likes within seconds? Well, that's a perfect example of instant gratification. It feels good right away with very little effort. For instance, social media gives us instant gratification because we get quick reactions from others. Now, moving on to an important word we heard earlier, dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical in the brain that makes us feel happy, excited, or rewarded. Henry explained how every notification or like gives us a small dopamine boost, which is why we keep checking our phones again and again. A simple example would be watching funny videos can release dopamine and improve your mood. All right, next is attention span. This refers to how long someone can focus on one thing before getting distracted. Emma mentioned how short videos are making our attention spans shorter, which makes it harder to concentrate on things like reading or studying. For example, my attention span is shorter after spending too much time on short videos. Now, let's talk about something very relatable, the comparison trap. This is when we keep comparing ourselves to others, often leading to feelings like jealousy or not feeling good enough. In the episode, they explained how seeing perfect photos online can make us question our own lives. For example, looking at people's perfect lives online can pull us into the comparison trap. Next, we have self-worth. Self-worth is how much we value ourselves as a person, how we see our own importance. Emma talked about how relying on likes and comments can affect our self-worth, especially if we don't get the reaction we expected. For example, your self-worth shouldn't depend on how many likes you get online. Closely connected to that is the word validation. Validation means looking for approval or recognition from others in order to feel good about yourself. Henry pointed out that social media can make us depend on external validation instead of building confidence from within. For instance, some people look for validation through comments on their posts. All right, let's continue with face-to-face interaction. This simply means communicating with someone in person, not through a screen. They discussed how social media sometimes replaces real conversations, even when people are physically together. An example could be face-to-face interaction helps us build stronger and more meaningful relationships. Next is isolation. Isolation is the feeling of being alone or disconnected from others. Even though social media connects us online, Emma mentioned that it can sometimes make us feel more isolated in real life. For example, spending too much time online can lead to feelings of isolation. And finally, we have the word mindful. Being mindful means being aware of your actions, your habits, and how they affect you. At the end of the episode, both Emma and Henry encouraged us to be more mindful of how we use social media so we can make healthier choices. For instance, try to be mindful of how much time you spend on your phone each day. All right, that's all for today's vocabulary. Try to use these words in your own sentences this week. Maybe even talk about your own social media habits using them. That's a great way to remember them. And as a final thought, being mindful of how social media affects us can really help us stay in control instead of letting it control us. Good luck with your practice, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks a lot, Laura. Those explanations are always so useful. They really help make everything clearer.
Yes, thank you, Laura. Honestly, it makes topics like this much easier to understand. Wow, that was quite a lot to take in. I really hope this episode gave you something meaningful to think about. Social media can be a powerful tool, but at the same time, it's important to stay aware of how it's affecting us on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. It really comes down to balance. Social media isn't completely bad, but understanding its effects can help us make better, healthier choices. We truly hope this episode was helpful and gave you some useful insights. And thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to download the PDF. It includes all the key ideas and vocabulary from this episode. You'll find the link in the description.
And just a little reminder, sometimes taking a short break from social media can make a big difference. Take care of yourselves, and thanks again for listening. Goodbye for now. And remember, don't let social media control you. You should be the one in control. Your journey doesn't stop here. If you'd like to keep improving your English, go ahead and check out the next video or explore the other lessons we prepared for you.